Put my phone in my pocket.
Thank you.
I remember the most from last year.
Yeah. Okay. Mishlei 2028, almost at the end of the parak. Not that the parak can mean anything. Okay. Chesed ve'emes yitzuru melech v'sa'ad b'chesed kiso. Okay, some weird words here. But anyone want to take a stab?
Chesed and truth.
Yep. How would you translate chesed?
Kindness.
Kindness and truth.
Kindness and truth. Or like the midas chasadim. I don't really know.
Oh, like acts of kindness. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we put that in one of the questions, whether it's
yitzru.
Yeah.
Like yitzru is like a desire.
So yitzer is a desire. This comes from a different shoresh. That's would be with an ayin in the middle. That would be yotzer. Yeah, that'd be yatzar.
Okay,
This comes. So I'll tell you why this is fooling you. This actually comes from the shoresh nun sadi reish. Notzer, like notzer chesed lalafim. Preserves, yeah. So preserve or guard. Okay, melech
preserves king.
Yeah, and here it actually is chesed emes. They are the things that preserve the king. Okay, they preserve or guard the king because it's sorry, not guard the king because it's plural yitzru.
Right.
Okay, so not that the king guards them, but they guard him.
So the so'ad and foundation.
No, it might be related to foundation now that I think about it, but it's not. What was it? So like Seuda. Yeah. Oftentimes it means that. Not here.
I'm actually surprised I didn't think of that first.
Yeah. So Sa'ad here, I think it's unanimous. Means literally means to support.
Support.
Okay. And that's why I'm saying it might be related to Seuda because Seuda is like a nourishing thing, you know. Yeah. You know what, let me just quickly look at the Al HaTorah Shorashim thing. We need to educate ourselves on Shorashim, and I'm including myself in that because these are weird Shorashim. Oops, sorry. Did I just share it? No. Hold on. Let's go back here. Al HaTorah. So let's see. I believe this is. I was correct with the Nun Sadi Reish. Let's see if I was correct. Yeah, Nun Sadi Reish. Watch, guard, keep. So same thing as Shomer, or I mean, it's a synonym to Shomer. And then Sa'ad is support, sustain. Sustain. That's probably the meal thing, or stay. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's on this week's parsha. Yeah. Okay.
Chesed.
Yep.
Within kindness.
Yeah.
He's on his throne.
Yeah. Now, so just I missed. So Vasad, how did you conjugate that, or like how did you?
Vasad and sustenance and support.
Well, it's a verb, right? So.
I was gonna say I'm terrible at grammar.
Okay, that's why we're getting a feel for it. Remember, I don't know grammar rules, but you just kind of got to feel it out.
Supported with kindness.
Yeah, so that's how I'd be inclined to translate it. His throne is supported with kindness, but I think it's he supports his throne with kindness. Okay, we'll see what the English says. Okay, kindness. Okay, so before we do the English,
is there a distinction with translating with kindness and righteousness?
Yeah, righteousness is tzedek, and chesed is kindness. Yeah, I've never seen chesed translated as righteousness. Yeah,
that's just pretty funny.
What?
It's just interesting. I don't know.
That point or the
both of your points.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah. I think the thing that sometimes you get like interchangeable terms. Sometimes tzedek and tzedakah mean justice and righteousness, but chesed always means kindness. Yeah, or loving kindness, as Arco says. I don't know why they always have to say that. Okay, Sadia Gaon says, and in case you were wondering, Sadia Gaon does not come from Sa'ad. Okay, Sadia Gaon is, I believe, from I think Sa'id in Arabic is like is like witness, I think. Like Sahadi, I think. Oh, it's good? Oh, interesting. Well, we'll have to ask someone who knows more Arabic than we do, Judeo-Arabic. Yeah. Okay. So Saadia Gaon says, "Roi sheyishmor hamelech b'chesed ve'emes." Okay, I don't know how to translate that. Roi sheyishmor hamelech b'chesed ve'emes, or sheyisham. I don't know if it's yishmor or yisham there. It's fitting. So either that the king should guard with chesed and truth, or that he should be guarded with chesed and truth. I feel like the be guarded fits in better with the lashon of the pasuk, right? Because the pasuk is depicting it as though chesed and emes are guarding the king.
Right. Wow.
Good question. I'm gonna go with my instinct here and say it should be guarded with. It's fitting that the king should be that the king be guarded with kindness and truth. Also, kindness and truth kind of like are not very like they're not tough guys. Like if you're talking about like the muscle of guardians, it's a weird kind of guarding. Ki behem yichon kiso. Because through them,
almost perfect time.
Yeah, his throne will be established. Okay, Yikon is to establish. And then I think Targum is basically the same as the pasuk. So Chistav Kushta, kindness and truth, Yintru Lamalka. Never mind, this is different. Yintru Limalka are guarded for the king, right? For the king. Umasakin Kurse Bechista, and he fixes or corrects, establishes his throne in kindness. Here you go. Oh, actually, yeah, you can use that one. Yep.
Lamalka is not like for female.
That would be Malkasa or Malkata. Yeah, Malka is masculine. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why the what is it called? So people always talk about the Shabbos Hamalka, or the Shabbos Queen,
Right.
But if you look that, I think that's like a Kabbalistic thing or whatever. But I think if you look at the Rambam, he always talks about Shabbos HaMelech. Shabbos is a king,
Right.
And I always wondered if like somehow the thing got switched by the thing that you're saying. Like people heard Malka and they thought it was the Hebrew word Malka.
Esther HaMalka, isn't it?
Well, that's a Hebrew word, but
okay.
Malka in Aramaic is king. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what are the questions here?
There's a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot. Yeah.
It seems like for this, the difference between Sadigon and our working translation is that, Sadigon seems to be putting emphasis on not the king but on the others in terms of that it's fitting that the king be guarded with kindness and truth, meaning like other people are supporting him with the kindness and truth versus
Right.
The king should look out for
Yeah.
kindness and truth.
Yeah, it's weird because you would think that the king would be the active party in this thing, but the Chesed and Emes are the active party according to the plain shot. Yeah. Oops, sorry, I forgot to do the English here. So our scroll says kindness and truth protect the king. He sustains his throne in kindness. Okay. Yeah, I think sustain we should definitely put them there because that was a good word. Living Nach says kindness and truth protect the king with kind deeds. That was Gimlus Chasadim, like you're saying, he maintains his throne. Altar says, let a king keep faithful trust that he uphold his throne in faithfulness. And Altar's commentary says, let a king keep, the translation assumes a singular yitzor for the plural yitzru in the received text. Okay, so that was what we noted here. I said that it's in plural and you would expect it to be the king preserves, So he says the assumption is encouraged by the Masoretic linking of the verb with a hyphen to melech, king, suggesting that the singular noun is the grammatical subject of the verb. Okay, whatever. All right, we'll just go with the literal translation and not fancy ourselves with other readings here. Okay, so hold on. Let me just delete this here.
So why does the king need protection?
Yeah. Okay, good. So all right, let's get this here. Okay, just 1 second. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so why does the king need protection? Okay, protection from what? And then obviously the implicit question, which we already asked, is how do Chesed and Emes protect the king? Yeah.
And passive versus active.
Yeah. In what sense are they active and the king passive?
And
what is its throne referring
Yeah. Yeah. What is the king's? Is the king's throne? Yeah.
And why is it separate than the king himself?
Yes.
Okay,
so that I think this is going to be a central question because if you look at it, like.
Can they kind of thing?
I wasn't going to say that, but sounds good. Well, I was hold off on that for 1 second. I was going to say that it's interesting that the king is protected by kindness and truth, but his throne is only supported through kindness, right? So it's clear that these are two different things. So let's split this into all the questions here. What is the king's throne? as separate from the king. Okay, and then why are Chesed and Emes the protectors, but only Chesed is the sustainer / supporter? That's the implication. Yeah.
In the question, can you say of the king and then of the throne?
Yeah. Protectors of the king, but only Chesed is the sustainer supporter of the throne.
But I mean, and we're not going to use the established.
We can do established also.
I mean, there's a big monopoly.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. I mean, and I'm saying we can do this also because the Targum does say that, or sorry, the Sadigon says that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I guess
Others.
another way of asking that question,
Yeah.
or give you a different one, is like, wouldn't that just be a natural consequence of the first pasuk? I mean, wouldn't the second half of the pasuk just be a natural consequence of the first pasuk?
I don't know, because to without going to an answer right now, like to me, protection means that there is a threat of external harm, right? And this Chesed and Emes ward off that, but support or sustain or establish is like a positive thing, like it's not just, I mean, no, there's like this, maybe this is what you were getting at. If you don't have protection, then the throne is probably not going to be established, but establishing might require more than just protection, like protecting a business from losses is different than actively profiting or establishing a company.
I have to think about that. I don't know if that's really my question.
Okay. We of course need to ask definition questions, right?
What is chesed?
Yeah. What is chesed in this context, and then what is emes in this context? By the way, I should just mention as a basic translation thing, emes is not necessarily truth. Emes can also mean faithfulness. Like for example, in the shir I gave on the Yugum Milos Rachamim last year, then the Ralbag says that when it says God is Rav Chesed Emes, that he's abundant in kindness and truth, he says abundant in truth means that he's abundant in keeping the promises that he makes. So like faithfulness, not necessarily like truth, like true and false.
More like loyalty to a degree. I mean, faithfulness means like
Yeah.
you project onto.
Yeah. Loyalty is related to that because the word Aleph Mem Nun and Aleph Mem, or sorry, the shoresh of Aleph Mem Nun and Aleph Mem Tav, according to the Sefer HaShorashim of the Radak, they both come from the word firm. So firmness is a quality of truth, and firmness is also a quality of like relationships. Like you being committed to someone. Yeah, or like the pasuk he brings is when Moshe, when Klal Yisrael are fighting Amalek at the end of Bashalach, it says Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were emunah ad bo hashamesh. His hands were firmly upheld until the sun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I think I know why I asked that question.
Yeah.
But it's not a question anymore because I noticed that the second half of the pasuk is referring to his kindness. It seems to be going back to the king, versus the first half of the pasuk is referring to.
Where do you see his kindness?
Support / establish, and he sustains / support / establish his throne with kindness.
Okay, his throne. You said his kindness.
Yeah, his throne with kindness, meaning like it could be referring to the Melech's kindness.
So
that's the question.
okay, that's a good question, right? So whose chesed and emes is this referring to? The king towards others, or others toward the king?
I mean, two different halves. No, I mean, the first half of the pasuk could be referring to one of them, and the second half of the pasuk could be referring to the other.
Yeah, but you don't have a basis. I mean, we don't.
Sure, referring to the king to others, right?
I don't know for sure.
That's what I was.
Oh, because
thinking.
he sustains his throne in kindness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that you're right. That does seem to be the king's kindness.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And the first half could be referring to.
Okay, so there's a basis then. There's a basis. Yeah, I wasn't objecting intrinsically. I was saying that like just to, because you've tried to pull this move before in our Monday night Mishlei, where the pasuk uses the same phrase in both halves, and you have a different actor in each one. And if there's a basis for it, then I'll go along with it. And there is a basis now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were gonna say that, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's ask the same question that we did on the last pasuk, which is important here also, is who exactly is the melech in this case? And the only reason I'm asking this is because we said last time, so plain pshat is we're talking about a literal king, right? Extended pshat is anyone who's in a position of leadership. That's what we said last time. But then we also saw last time that it was talking about a king in a specific capacity, which is in capacity of judge, right? Because we think of king as a ruler. The kings were judges back then. So is this talking about the king in his capacity as judge, ruler? We also saw the Meiri and the Rabag took in a non-literal sense that the king referred to the intellect. It was talking about the king of the person, you know, which obviously that's not what we're going to do for our first interpretation because that's not literal. We didn't do any of the meforshim like this last time, but there were meforshim on last pasuk that said the king refers to God. Again, which is not we don't go to the non-literal one first, but yeah.
Wondering why he had to do that.
Why who the Meiri?
Rabag did.
Yeah. So I can't explain why the Rabag did it, but I can explain why the Meiri did it. Meiri has two layers of learning Mishlei. There's the nigla and the nister. The nigla has to do, like that's the open external meaning, that has to do with how you make decisions in the physical world for material success. So there he learns that it is a literal king. And then he has the nister meaning, which is the internal esoteric meaning, which is how to regulate the life of your perfection in terms of learning and Torah and stuff like that. So for there, he'll often go to like treating the country as the entire person and like the king as the intellect, or sometimes the king is the Yitzhahara, depending on what muscle he likes that day. Yeah. Okay. Do we get? We're not ruling it out, but we're setting it aside. We always like to go. So the general way I like to approach Mishlei is take it as literally as possible, unless something is forcing you to go non-literal, for the pshat at least. Once you're in the realm of the muscle, then you could definitely go that way. But we always like to do the pshat first. Oh, because that's my other premise of Mishlei, is that you can't responsibly understand the muscle until you understand the pshat, because then it ends up being like people just projecting all of their own stuff onto the model. Like maybe the king is my dad, you know, like.
I feel like it seems like you're saying this from experience.
Yes, there are. I remember there's not from my experience teaching, is that there was I think one of the best, I mean, it's hard to do the best for Pesach zingers, but how do you phrase it? Because his phrasing is so good. It was in a Gemara year, I think it was in a Gemara year a long time ago. And people were given the wackiest svaras, and they were kind of getting to that territory. And then Pesach just said, like, this is not a psychoanalysis session, you know, like that was his, you know, but yeah. Okay, anyway. All right, I think we're in a position.
Who is doing the supporting?
Say again?
Who is doing the supporting?
Who is doing the supporting? Yeah, I think, is that included in one of our, where do we say the support thing? Do we ask about the support? No.
I think implicitly.
Implicitly we did, right? But we did not.
Not
Yeah.
with direct.
Yeah. What is Sa'ad? And Yav, you said who is supporting?
Who is doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
So
doing it?
Is there another possibility besides the king? Because we noted that this is in the singular. Oh, but you know what, by the way, you see Sadigon doesn't do that. Oh, well, sorry, he does do that. Sorry. He says he makes the king into the never mind. Yeah, all right, fine. So I think we said that the Saad plain tries it's the king because it's singular.
Well, yeah, what was your thought process just now? I'm just curious.
My thought process was I saw the word bahem.
Right.
So I thought, oh, he's trying to link the plural active party to the second half. But then I realized ki bahem yichon kiso, that he's translating Saad as yichon, and that's singular in the king. So I just made a grammatical leap.
Well, Saad is past tense, isn't it?
Yeah, he supported. Yeah, and that's why I made a funny face when I was translating this because I said I translated it in the present tense because it feels like it should be the present tense, right? He supported sounds weird, but you're right. I mean, it is in the past tense.
What do we do?
I don't know.
Sustained, supported.
Well, let's just keep it simple.
So I'll ask the question: what is Sa'ad and who is doing it? Yeah, David.
Just to like the sweep of questions. Which we had at number 8.
Yeah.
First off, Yeah, who's now, so then, or number 9 now.
Yeah,
Who's the audience
yeah,
and also what are the practical implications?
yeah.
Those big questions, I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're good too. Yep. Okay. So let's think. Chesed and Emes Yitzru Melech V'Sad Lit B'Chesed Kiso. So I feel like you have to have some working definition of Chesed and Emes because otherwise you can't get anywhere, right? And you can infer it from asking what does the king need protection from and how do these things protect him, you know? And we kind of have to keep a flexible mind in terms of are these qualities of his own actions and character or are these other people's actions and character? Like, because that was the unclear thing. You know, he's not being depicted as the active party in the first half.
Right.
I think a very simple shot would be that just if your town that he runs, the king, is being or the people in the town are like there's a lot of chesed that goes on amongst them with each other, and it's a fruitful neighborhood, meaning like everybody, like there's not a lot of I don't know, crime and stuff going on.
Yeah.
That itself would protect the king in terms of people like feeling hate towards him.
Okay.
He wouldn't have that.
Yeah. Okay. So one approach that we can take is Chesed and Emes are qualities of the Malchus, or like the citizens, or the citizens, right? And when the citizens embody these qualities, then that protects the king. So can we take that and say what it would protect the king from?
Right.
From
Yeah, like people rising against.
Okay,
him.
right. So from threats to his actual kingship,
Yes.
right? Okay, fine. And that fits in, I think, also well shot for the throne, because you talk about throne as like a synonym for his rulership, you know? So then now the question is, what is the Sa'ad b'Chesed then? What is the king, again, assuming this is the king or someone else supporting his throne with Chesed? And also, why is the, why is the Chesed and Emes from the people not enough? Yeah, let's just fully explore this one before we go to some other one.
Not enough.
Meaning apparently, like his throne still needs support through Chesed
Okay.
from him. I think from him is good assumption here, right? If we're saying that the Chesed and Emes on the first half is other people, yeah,
I could help him out with that.
sure,
I think that maybe you can say that it has to go both ways because sometimes when people, you know, do have, you know, give kindness and whatever to the king, you know, that's great, but because when someone's in a position of authority, leadership, or
Yeah.
office, like there can be a tendency to be paranoid that someone will, you know, uprise and overthrow him. So he needs to, you know, it's a tough balance, but he needs to trust and give back to the people in order to, you know.
right. So this to me explains the Chesed thing. Like you're saying, it has to be like reciprocal in a sense that the people have to see that the king is benefiting them as well.
Yeah.
But this also strengthens the question of why does he not have to have Emes back towards them? Like it would be very, I feel like if it said, you know, that the Chesed and Emes of the people protect the king and the king relates to them with Chesed and Emes, we'd be like, oh, that's so nice, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make one more point on that.
Yeah.
It's like almost if the king were to just automatically be have chesed with the citizens, then they wouldn't feel like they needed to do anything. So that's why it needs to come first before he returns that favor.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah.
And remember, you can think about, I think we can think about any situation of leadership. We don't have to think about a king just to make it easier. Yeah, yeah.
Like with my nephews.
Yeah.
I'm just like the best uncle. I
Yeah.
just give them whatever they want. Right. It's gonna almost be like normal for them, and they feel like they can take advantage of it.
Right.
They don't really. It's not special.
Right.
It's not a special thing to have that.
Right.
Whereas if they showed me respect and they were, you know, loving towards me or whatever, then I would be more accustomed.
So
to
what's your read of the pasuk based on that? I hear what you're saying in the
Yeah,
example.
so it needs to come, the kindness and truth of the people, the citizens need to come first in order for the king to return.
I mean, it
Chesed with the
needs to be like the
and
foundation.
I would say.
I think we need to define MS
Yes.
clearer. Yeah.
I really
We
think about it, but
Right,
let's say
yeah.
We're saying that it's like truthfulness or whatever.
Yeah.
If they already have truthfulness, meaning when you're truthful, you're either truthful or not.
Mhm.
Once you're not, if you do something untruthfully, then it's just
Right.
not truthful anymore.
Right.
Like, if the citizens are already truthful, he doesn't need to return that. But custom is like an unlimited amount of custody you can do.
Okay, I hear. I'm catching the intuitive wave here. So the current,
Can I help-
yeah.
can I help out? I'm gonna redefine MS as loyalty,
Okay.
and
I was also inclined to think that way, other than like, not that truthfulness is bad, but like I feel like it fits better with the way that we're going. Yeah.
I think there's a very simple answer that the king already has loyalty to his people. You know, that's like it's his king. He's not going to do anything to. Assuming he's benevolent, you know. He's not,
Yeah,
you know.
you have the right to assume that. By the way, I was just
If he's
I was saying, like,
what are you talking
historically,
about?
kings don't have a good track record of like being, you know,
Right.
truthful
So-
and benevolent, but you can assume that this time
What
is
I'm
a good
trying
thing.
to say is like he doesn't need to express his loyalty to his people.
Mhm.
Kindness, we may still have to define kindness more, but like kindness already conveys that to the people. Meaning it's like one and the same almost. Versus the king needs the kindness and the loyalty because for the king himself, he needs that. It's more of like I don't know, it's like extra security for him. I don't know why. I'm that's where my mind is going.
Okay.
But I'm trying to posit that like the people don't necessarily need the loyalty as much as the king.
I mean, they don't need loyalty from him as much as.
Yeah, why? I don't know.
Okay.
I'm speculating.
Yeah. I was just going to support one thing, by the way, that if you think, I'll give you a hint. If you think contextually, which we don't always do in Mishlei, why might you say that this is definitely talking about a good king, not just any king? You have to think back to last week.
Which pasuk last week?
We only did two, so
I know, I missed one.
yeah.
Melech Chacham?
Melech Chacham, right? So 2 psukim ago, it talked about a wise king. So it's reasonable to assume that this is also talking about a wise king, because if the sugya it was talking about was like it introduced the topic of a wise king,
Right.
you know, and if we're assuming that it's still on that same topic, then we don't have to take this. Then we could just assume it's talking about the same king. In other words, like I would. By default, if I just read this in isolation, I would assume it's talking about every king, no matter what. It's just talking about like the laws of like, or the principles of like politics, you know. But I'm saying that I'm trying to support Ariel with Chesed by saying that there's you could say that this is definitely talking about a wise king. Yeah,
That's funny.
you don't have to, but you
Like,
can.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't really support it within like the implications of pasuk itself.
No, you could also. Yeah. But
Because, like, I feel like kind and truth and kind and what doesn't apply to Russia. It's like
no, but you could still say though, you could still say that these principles are there. Like, let's say, for example, you know, someone like Hitler, you know, that you can argue that in the framework, even though he was doing evil and he was, you know, doing foolish stuff, in the framework of how he was trying to build up his people and the way that they related to him, that those had the qualities of Chesed and Emes. Like, especially if you're saying Emes is loyalty and Chesed is like showing a desire to benefit them, you know, that
Right.
in other words, you don't have to say that this is about a wise king making wise decisions about his malchus. It's just talking about if you want to keep your throne, this is what you got to do.
but you know it's interesting because like you could have a Russia who's wise.
Well,
He
yeah,
could- meaning like with the Hitler situation, like you know, like let's say he was obviously not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
But he may have kindness and loyalty and what you say you could establish it, but like at a certain point, he had to have, you know, lost it throughout his kingship because he went insane. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
paranoid or whatever.
right.
But like, I mean, that seems to be like downfall of most
Yeah,
Muslims. But
yeah.
like, if he maintained that,
Yeah, I mean the general not rule of thumb, the general definition of Rishaim in Mishlei is Rishaim will definitely use Chachma, but the thing is that they're only using it as a means towards ends that are not rooted in reality. You know, like so you're right. It's like, you know, that if this is talking about how to maintain your throne, then it could be used even by someone who's not like in the framework of justice.
I guess the question is, I don't know, maybe this is not a question, but like, is that meaning if Russia uses this system,
Yeah.
would this be like a long-term solution or?
So I think ultimately his rishus would undermine this. You know, like
external from this pasuk would undermine it,
yeah,
not
I think so.
with the pasuk
Yeah,
itself.
exactly. Yeah, like you'll have a really good run, in the middle of that, but your run will be brought to an end by your wickedness. Yeah, yeah.
Does it not, I understand what you're saying about the two psukim relating in terms of the
Mhm.
king being good,
Yeah.
but does it not matter that, or could it also be that it's not specifically referring to a good king because of the, I guess, other pasuk decree?
Yeah, you could definitely say that. Yeah, yeah.
I don't want-
And the way that Rabbeinu Yonah, it's funny, Rabbeinu Yonah often does both things. Like he'll say, for example, like we just saw this in if you look at Rabbeinu Yonah on, it was very recently, hold on. Yonah. Oh, it was on the king, that king pasuk. Mazari Rishayim.
Yeah.
No, it was Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay. Whatever. I'll just say it. Rabbeinu Yonah very often will say, since we're talking about topic A, and then we'll be like, but Rabbeinu Yonah, topic A was like 6 psukim ago,
Oh, really?
you know. But he'll also say stuff like linking one pasuk to the other through association. So he'll say, for example, we started off talking about a wise king. This is me making up a Rabbeinu Yonah, but it's a convincing one. In 26, we talked about a wise king scattering Rishayim in judgment. Then in 27, it talks about the intellect, which you should use to judge. And since we're talking about like using the intellect, then we're now talking about truth and kings in general. Like he'll just like loosely associate them. Yeah, yeah. So that's equally reasonable. Yeah. So we are still on Aaron's approach that Chesed and Emes means these are qualities in the society itself, in the people. We're still working on trying to define what the Emes is, but we're saying that these are necessary to preserve the king's his rule. And then we also are trying to get a clear idea of why only Chesed is necessary for the king to actively support his own throne and not Emes. We really need to know what Emes is, because that's what both questions hinge on. I have to spell it for the audio that I smiled, but I didn't laugh. Yeah.
What do you mean you say like, MS and Chesed are somewhat synonymous in some degree? I mean, you kind of can't have one without the other.
Well, I would say that, except for the fact that you do have one without the other in the second half,
No,
you know?
like, thinking that practically.
Yeah.
Why, like, I guess that gets back to the question of why it doesn't have any, having, I would think implies that you have MS as well.
Why? I feel like.
I mean, if you're defining MS as
All right.
loyalty.
Oh, no, but what is-
Well, to me, okay, so let me maybe just go in a little bit to the definition of chesed. So Rambam says that the word chesed, the strict meaning of chesed means excess or extra, you know, and I think that's also why I wasn't even entertaining that possibility, because MS, whether you say it's truth or loyalty, has like this connotation of like exactitude and like exactly what is accurate or right, you know, like a midas adin type implication, whereas chesed is going beyond the letter of the law, you know.
Right.
So that's why I think that you so maybe what you're saying is true in the sense that you can't have chesed without reference to MS, you know, but they're not synonymous in the sense that they don't go hand in hand in the sense that just because you have MS does not mean that you're going to have chesed, you know. So maybe what you're saying is true for this. So okay. So this is how I think. Tell me if this is what you were saying. Okay, it has to spell a chesed and MS in the first half because we're talking about. We need to talk about both elements. Okay, whatever. But then in the second half, once it references the chesed of the king, obviously it's presupposing MS because chesed is beyond the letter of the law or beyond like what the MS is, something like that. Meaning it's presupposing MS.
I guess, I mean, I didn't really have an explanation for the second half.
Mhm.
I'm kind of wondering why in the first place, in the first half.
Yeah.
Mentioning both.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it is different enough that it does need to mention both. But again, it's hard for me to say that with conviction because we don't know what MS is, you know? Yeah. So let's just break it down. Okay. MS is either loyalty or MS is truth telling, right? So I think the reason why intuitively I go with the loyalty thing is the people are not really speaking to the king that much, you know, like if it was talking about the king's like confidant, like his advisor, then I would assume MS means like he tells the truth to the king. But it doesn't make sense to say that the people are truthful to the king.
No, what about themselves?
Okay, that's another, that's right. You did mention that earlier, right? So the truthfulness to themselves.
Right, and if they weren't,
Yeah.
You would just have a lot of conflict.
Right.
because
Okay.
you
So
decide
let's try this approach. Okay, which is that what's the is it Thomas Jefferson's thing of the government that governs least governs best? Is that a thing? Let's go like a very minimalist thing. Like so, the ideal in a society without injustice, then the king doesn't need to do much, right? Maybe he needs to make like administrative decisions about like how to allocate communal resources or whatever, but he's not going to need to enforce stuff because the people basically take care of themselves, you know? So if you have a populace that is characterized by Chesed and Emes, which we'll say is like, you know, beneficial, kind actions towards each other and like truthfulness towards each other. So then the system is basically going to take care of itself, and the king is going to be, you know, there's not going to be any threats because these are good and truthful people, and they're taking care of themselves, and they're not going to like have any incentive to like have uprising towards him. Okay, let's assume that it means something like that. Okay, we could touch it up better if we need to. But now the question is, in that framework, what more does the king need to do to sustain his own throne, and how is Chesed the answer to that question? Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to, I was gonna help you.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna
Look
help
at this
you.
society of Chesed and Emes that we have here.
So maybe to say that the king. Let's go back to the first path, right?
Yeah.
For a second. So loyalty and kindness are.
Okay, just to remind you, we right now are not saying loyalty.
Oh, you're not.
So
Okay, I can't help
you can say loyalty. I just want to make sure that you're there. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it can still help you. With the answer to the second half of the
Yeah.
answer, but like, whatever. Let's just whatever.
No, you could say it. I just wanted to make sure that we're on two different tracks. Yeah.
MS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. MS, yeah.
Is important for the king because the king is running a country and he needs that, you know, he what that does for the king, it protects him because he can be secure in his decision making and the ability to live on for certain people.
Right.
But without that, he'll have no like psychological willpower.
Yeah.
Then what is he doing it for?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to say that MS is extremely necessary for the king.
Yeah.
Because he's in that situation.
Yeah.
However, in the second half of the pasuk, it's not necessary for the people because the people are not put in a situation where they're relying on this extra tool to push them for other people. They're not in that position.
Right.
So, but however, kindness is important because kindness, it makes them feel like they're a part of something. It makes them feel like they're you know, in the king's existence. So to speak.
I'm still not understanding why Emes is not in the second half.
Because they don't need it.
They don't need
The
it.
people don't need loyalty. I'm saying loyalty because like the king needs the loyalty because he needs to have the ability to go further with his actions and lead his people to. I mean, he needs to have a psychological security.
Okay, so maybe let me try this and see if I still want to hear what you want to say, but see if this would be better about why the king doesn't need it. With the kings back then have absolute power, pretty much. I mean, obviously Jewish kings are bound by halacha, but a king can do whatever he wants. His ability to do stuff is not dependent on any loyalty from them to him. But with interpersonal relationships in society, there needs to be a certain basis of like people agreeing to have each other's backs or like loyalty with each other.
Can you say the first half?
Yeah, a king can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need the other person to be loyal to him in order to act. If a king wants to give you a benefit, he'll give you a benefit. If a king wants to punish you, he'll punish you. But with people need a certain amount of loyalty with each other to be able to have this type of like healthy societal interpersonal relationship.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that because like, yeah, I get he has absolute power and he doesn't necessarily need the loyalty, but having the loyalty is different. Meaning like if he knows that he has people who are with them until they die, absolutely with them. It's like a certain.
No, I thought your whole shot was the king doesn't need to show MS to them. That's what I mean by he doesn't need the loyalty. It's one directional.
Wait,
the king just acts.
the king just. Oh, you're explaining the second half of the pasuk?
Yeah.
Oh, how's that explaining the second half of the pasuk that the king doesn't need the loyalty? Meaning,
He doesn't need to show loyalty
oh, he doesn't need
to the
show
people.
loyalty,
Yeah,
but he himself needs the loyalty.
he needs it from them. That's what the
Oh,
first
okay,
half is saying.
okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay,
Yeah. All right, Aaron, what do you say?
Yeah, so based on what you're saying with the Thomas Shepard, I'm really not.
Whatever, yeah.
But I think it preserves / guards the king from having to act or having to deal with
Mhm,
that kind
mhm.
of matter.
Right. Right. Yeah. They're taking care of themselves.
Exactly. It's like he doesn't,
Right.
he doesn't need to deal with that.
Yeah.
So they take the burden off.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then therefore he's free to give chesed.
Oh, okay. That's interesting then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
And also, why not emes? I think because it's taken care of by them also. I mean, that's. Chesed doesn't
Okay.
end.
yeah.
You can always give more chesed. Having more truthfulness is like.
Well, okay. I think I have a different
What
answer
is-
that works out even better.
Okay.
Is if we're saying emes is the quality of truthfulness and honesty and stuff. Okay. So that either exists in the society or it doesn't. A king can bestow chesed. He can't affect the truthfulness of the people. Like that's something that has to come from them. You know, like if you have like a I'll use another setting. Let's say, for example, you have like a company or whatever, right? So all the employees they do chesed for each other, like they benefit each other, and then they are honest with each other, and that makes things run smoothly. So the king, the boss of the company, can distribute benefits to them, so he can do chesed. He can't do emes, like either they are honest with each other or they're not. And let's say, well, maybe the king could be truthful to them. Well, that's great, but that's not going to instill truthfulness in them, you know? So it's not right. In other words, so it's not omitting chesed from the second half it's not omitting emes from the second half because the king doesn't need to do it. It's that he can't instill truthfulness in the society.
He could try, like he could try. Like that.
He could try, but
Ideas,
see,
whatever.
right,
Leading by example.
right. But so,
By example,
but maybe.
ideas, Torah.
So, but maybe if we now go with the who said acts of kindness. So that was one of the English ones. If chesed means acts of kindness and emes means having the value of truthfulness, then I think it reads smoothly that if the people who the king is governing do acts of chesed to each other and are truthful and honest with each other. So chesed meaning actions and emes being like a midah of honesty. So then the king, if he has a society like that, then that will, like you were saying, enable the king to do more chesed because he doesn't have to put up with like punishment of criminals and stuff like that. He could just use his resources and his position to do more chesed, but he can't do emes. Doing emes is not even a thing, you know. Leading by example is nice, but like that's not, there's no action of emes if we're defining emes as truthfulness. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And this is one the list is, but why these specific chesed and emet? Why these two characteristics versus other characteristics?
Yeah.
Right, like I know you mentioned
Right.
that comp, like seemingly that could have been
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. So I also have a similar question that leads me to want to find two mutually exclusive and I don't know what the word is for this, all encompassing things where like I'd like to find an interpretation of chesed and emes where it covers all the bases.
Yeah.
And that they're saying two distinct things, you know, like that's why I was trying to go for the thing of like chesed here means good interpersonal relations and emes means like commitment to truth. Like those are like two, you know, chesed would have all bin amnu chavero stuff and emes would be like all, you know, I don't know, what do you want to say? Like I want to find something like that also. And I'm being driven to find that by the question that you're asking. Yeah. Okay. I think this is a good approach. Let's stop for today, let it roll around, and then I'll search for meforshim to see if anyone takes that approach for tomorrow, and then we'll see maybe another approach as well. Yeah, we'll take other approaches as well.
Just
Yeah.
you guard the kind is.
Oh, thanks, King. Thank you. That's very kind. Okay.
I felt it, yeah.
Yeah.
That was very king of you.
Yes. All righty.